So amazed, and I left there feeling, oh my goodness, I
It is so good from start to finish. It's hard to say one aha.
VIP session is extremely helpful. I didn't expect it would be that, like, even just anything that anybody asks is very helpful, even though sometimes I might think it might not be relevant to what I'm doing, but every question, every moment, it's been very valuable, and I very much appreciate that. And I would definitely recommend this to anybody.
Would you feel that you got more done in these 3 days that you have when in goal setting that you have in the last 3 years?
Yeah.
It's definitely true that we've accomplished more in these 3 days than the last 3 years.
I've never felt that relaxed up front before, ever.
Do I find this valuable? Yes. I wouldn't be staying up this late when I'm so tired if I didn't find it valuable. Have I paid that premium price for the same information? Yes, I have. You connect with different people, and I very much connect with you and your community too. So I would highly recommend this. Yes.
I would say don't hesitate. Just do it. You will get more bang for your buck than you actually can imagine. The experience has been very fruitful, positive. There's nothing that I can say that is a negative in working with Enoch.
It has been an amazing experience. The amount of things that we're able to accomplish, not to have a to-do list when we're done. We do have things that we're going to do, but we have a to-done list, and we were able to create assets, and we were able to do it with a guide. It was worth all of the money that we spent on doing it. You talk about hiring a coach. It is so valuable to hire the coach that will help you to do the thing.
We always talk about the end goal, but not how do we get there. And so we've learned a lot about how to do that.
I can tell you've gotten a lot of random information from everywhere and distilled it down. And so I told myself, let me just focus on the stuff that you're sharing and not get too sidetracked listening to other people, because you actually covered things that other people were saying, but just in a way that I feel like it's framed in a way that I personally connect with better.
I'm really grateful for the accountability of seeing everyone's faces and the questions that are asked. I really like the community aspect of the VIP and just asking questions. I am looking forward to networking with more people.
The ability to converse with you guys and ask questions, and then you can kind of tailor what we need. I mean, that's also helpful, that you can see what we need when we're speaking about it, so that it's not a lot of guesswork or something.
People have been referred to me on many occasions asking how you do it, what'd you do, how'd you do it? And I'll tell the person who's watching or listening right now exactly what I've told people who come to me asking for my advice. I tell them, go to Enoch, because the way I did it was the hard way. I'm thankful for the way that God led me, but I can definitely see how going through it the way that Enoch teaches is a lot easier. It's a lot less. I think you would get success a lot faster, be able to reach people on a deeper level.
Because Enoch is a constant learner, whatever he's learning, he's constantly bringing it to the table. So he's not stagnant. He's constantly learning. He's constantly growing his own skill set. And whatever he's learning, he's bringing to you. And so you can be guaranteed that you're going to constantly be getting cutting edge marketing strategies.
My story about the English teacher?
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't pass English until she evaluated where we were and then started from there. And so that's what I feel like this whole experience has been, is helping us to come up meet us where we're at, and then bring us up higher.
That's why I love coaching, because you're not going to get that from a book. You won't get that from a YouTube video. You won't get that from a podcast. That's why it's when you're here for the coaching, I'm here for the coaching. And as much as you can be present, I'll be present. You'll get more out of it when we're able to interact. And the interaction is where you can maximize your investment together. And so I love that too.
So I just wrapped up a call with Enoch, and honestly, it was very, very much timely, well needed. He brings a wealth of knowledge and experience, very eye-opening, caused me to ask a lot of questions. I'd encourage you, if you haven't already, to book a consultation with Enoch?
Oh, I've spent $10,000 in coaching more than once, and the reason why it was the best is because Enoch and his team has come together to help us with this specific niche and the specific problems that we were dealing with. Then we were able to build things. Before we had processes and different things that were given, and we got the books, we got all the different things that came with it, but not the guide. That's really the key. It was the guiding through.
Come along and join with Enoch, because your business will grow, develop, and you yourself will grow and develop far more than you can ever imagine.
If you have an opportunity to work with Enoch, please do not hesitate. He is so knowledgeable and his time is so precious, so make sure you get on his calendar quickly so that you can be able to work with him.
All right, we're back. So those are some of the testimonies that people have shared. I wanted to share that with us. Today we have a very special training. We're going to be talking about the key to selling while serving. And this is great if you have challenges with selling where you feel uncomfortable at selling. When it comes to your health knowledge, it's easy to share, it's simple, it's not difficult. It's fun to be able to talk about health, disease, physiology, and herbal remedies, or all these things. But when you start talking about price or money or charging a price for your health advice, that's when things get a little shaky or nervous or unclear. Today we're going to be addressing those things, and we're going to be sharing with you how you can serve people at the highest level while also doing it in a sustainable way that you can continue to expand your influence. Does that sound good? The first key is really what I like to call the biggest lie about selling that many health educators believe. And in the School of Dreams, in the Field of Dreams, there was Hollywood produced this movie. I didn't watch it, but I understand the premise of it was there's this big cornfield, and they said that if you build it, they will come. Meaning that they're gonna build this baseball field and people will automatically come. How many of you have ever heard that a good product is going to sell itself, right? Type I have in the chat if that's you. Because the reality is, now that sounds great for a fictitious Hollywood story that doesn't actually work in the real world. Because the truth is, good health products don't sell themselves without good selling systems. And I can prove that to you. Because in the marketplace right now, can you think of a product or a program out there? Maybe there's organizations who are selling to people who have a similar problem that you know you can help, but they have an inferior product. Maybe their principles aren't as true. Maybe they have some misinformation, weaker methodologies. Their product isn't as good as your knowledge and abilities, but they're making far more money. Why is that? Because they have better marketing systems, because they've understood that it is marketing that brings the income. It's not that you could have the best product in the world. You could fill your mind with all of this health knowledge, information, degrees, credentials, certifications, and experience. You could be one of the most experienced health educators, but unless you learn how to market that message and share with other people, then it's not going to really reach anybody, reach the people you're capable of. And I would submit too that publish and pray is not a real marketing strategy. Now, I believe in prayer. We have built our business on prayer. I pray with my clients before my speeches. We fast and pray with our clients every week. And prayer is important, but is it wise to lean on a shovel and pray to God for a hole? How many of you would agree that if we're praying to God for something, that we have a part to play? And that if God calls us to be co-laborers together with Him, right? And same thing with, we want to monetize our knowledge, we want to make a difference or a change in maybe how we're doing it, the model we've been doing. So there's actions that we have to do. So how many of you, I want to see a show, let me know in the chat, type action in the chat if you see that what we're sharing today in this challenge is an answer to your prayer. How many of you are willing to take action, to act out and cooperate with God in the answer of your prayers? Type action in the chat. So the thing is that a lot of people have a misunderstanding about marketing, and there's a lot of service-oriented, mission-minded health educators who feel uncomfortable when it comes to marketing. And I would say that marketing is a very old principle. It's nothing new. In fact, Paul the Apostle understood this. In the book of Acts 17:17, the scripture says, "Therefore disputed he," speaking of Paul the Apostle, "in the synagogue with the Jews and with the devout persons, and in the market daily with them that met with him." Now it's interesting. What was Paul doing in the market? He was marketing. He understood, as the apostle to the Gentiles and sharing a message with the world, that marketing was important in doing that. In fact, I would even submit to you that marketing is not manipulation. Health marketing is bringing your message to the masses. I wrote the book on high-ticket health coaching, and in there I talk about the biblical marketing principles that help you to get your message to the masses. And what I realized is that though I have a health knowledge, that God has helped me to reverse the high blood pressure, high cholesterol, lose 50 pounds in child obesity and pre-diabetes, and I had some principles that could change people's lives, but I knew that my message would die on my lips if I didn't learn how to market it to other people. Because being able to get the attention and the eyes and the ears of your ideal clients, this is what is really what is able to break free from obscurity and be able to serve the people that we're called to serve. So the first key is to really recognize that good health products don't sell themselves without good selling systems. And what that looks like is so many times we focus a lot on creating the best product, whether that's going through degrees to improve our knowledge. Maybe it's creating a course. People spend months or years trying to prepare a course in a vacuum in a studio with all the perfect editing and polished video and equipment, trying to go through all of this. But that's not what actually makes money and supports your mission. It's not the writing of books. It's the marketing of the books that you write. It's not creating the coaching program. It's marketing the program that you created. These are the skills that are able to pay your bills. So key number 2, this is how to have people lined up out the door with cash in hand, ready to pay whatever you charge. How many of you would like to be able to have people that are excited to pay you with the cash in hand? This is the second key, is to understand that you don't attract the buyer you desire, you attract the buyer you are. What do I mean by that? I mean, if you are a resistant buyer, you will attract resistant buyers. And when you sell, you will think everyone else is as stingy as you are or as resistant as you are, and when it comes to buying, and that they are so bothered by what you're doing. What I found is that the people who are best at sales are the ones who are generally the easiest to be sold to. In fact, part of the reason why is because those who refuse to buy will be unable to charge. One of the things that I've learned, or what I've realized, is if I'm unwilling to cut a check or pay a premium for my education, for my mentorship, then I'm also going to believe or doubt that anybody else would be willing to pay a premium. I find that you'll notice that people who get gifted the free guidance are some of the people who have the hardest hindrances of actually selling their program. They think they don't know anybody who would be willing to pay because they're not someone who's willing to pay. So if you want to attract eager buyers who are ready to pay, then become someone who genuinely loves to pay people. And in fact, I love being sold to. And part of the reason why is because I know that any time that I'm in a selling environment, there's only 2 great outcomes of being sold to. There's only 2 great things that are going to come from that selling environment. The first great outcome is I'm going to see that I'm going to listen to what the person is doing, whether it's a phone call, whether it's a training, an event, a webinar, regardless of what it is. I'm going to not just pay attention to what they're saying, but I'm going to listen to what they're doing and how is it making me feel? What effect is it having? Are they using like false scarcity? Is it making me feel like uncomfortable? Or are they putting high pressure tactics trying to like force you to buy or do something that you're not ready for? It's just whatever it is, I am going to notice what they're doing and I'm not going to like it and I'm not going to buy. And you know what? That's a great outcome because I will refuse to do that to my clients and I will be a better salesperson as a result. And the second great outcome of being sold to is I'm going to listen or go through a selling environment and then I am going to notice how they helped or how it made me feel. I'm going to pull out my wallet, do what every great entrepreneur does and invest. And then I'm going to analyze, I'm going to see like what made that work? Why was that so effective? Why did I buy it? And I'm going to start implementing and seeing how could I apply that in my process, and I will be a better salesperson as a result. And I know in any selling environment, there's only two great outcomes that will happen. So instead, what you'll find is that if you want to get better at helping people to make informed decisions to buy from you, then whenever you get to a sales message, what most people do who struggle with sales is they will lean out and they're like, oh, they're just trying to pitch me something. Oh, this is just a sales, I don't want to hear this. And then they tune out. But instead, the most successful health educators who are profitable, they lean in, they tune in during the sales messages and they're taking notes. And like literally being able to transcribe presentations, read and highlight some of the messages. And I was learning like, why do they affect this? What kind of questions are they asking? How is this working? And when you could be a super student of successful speakers, health educators who are doing profitable health talks, who are attracting clients, you'll notice that they speak differently than struggling health educators who teach their face off, but at the end, it doesn't actually show up in sustaining their bank account. And people are saying they love hearing and it's all great, but it's because there's different methods. And a lot of times that when we are, one of the reasons why we attract resistant buyers is because we're resistant buyers. But if you become someone who's genuinely excited, genuinely enjoys paying people, then you'll also believe that the people you're talking to, they genuinely desire to pay you. They're excited to pay you as well. So how many of you are ready to attract buyers who are genuinely excited to pay you? Type yes in the chat if that's you. So the second key to selling while serving is to become a person who genuinely loves to pay people. Becoming a person who genuinely loves to pay people, this is a huge difference. And then key number 3, this is the number one thing that I see prevents many health educators from serving at some of the highest levels. And the scripture shows that if you have a solution to people's health problems, then you have a moral obligation to sell it to as many people as you can, as fast as you can. Now, in Proverbs chapter 11, King Solomon, who, by the way, he was the wisest and wealthiest man in human history. Do you think we can learn a thing or two about maybe business or finances from the wisest and wealthiest man in history? I believe so. And in verse 26, the scripture says, "He that withholdeth the corn, the people shall curse him. But blessings shall be upon the head of him that selleth it." Notice how it doesn't say there's a blessing on those who give it away for free. There's a blessing on him that selleth it. Why? Because selling is a good idea, because selling is a God idea. We see that selling is all throughout scriptures. I don't have time to explain it all here, but I'll sprinkle some throughout the training. All throughout scriptures, you will find that selling is God's established way for his children to create wealth, is by finding a problem that people have and bringing a solution in exchange for value. You're solving problems for them. In fact, if you look at all money, money is simply a receipt of value added to the marketplace. Whenever we have every dollar that we have is because someone sold something to someone for a profit. That no matter where, if you like, let's say every dollar, it only exchanges when salespeople and entrepreneurs are selling a product or a program. That's the only time that money exchanges from people's hands, is through sales and entrepreneurs. And if you look, you might say, well, that's not true because I'm a secretary. I have a secretarial position. I don't work in sales. Well, the only reason why that business who employs you is able to pay your salary is because salespeople and entrepreneurs in that business have sold something to someone for a profit, and out of that profit, they pay for your wages. And you got paid because someone sold something. And others might say, well, I work for the government, so we don't do that. And the only reason why government employees get paid is because because an entrepreneur sold something, they made a profit, and the government stole that money from the entrepreneur, and then they pay the wages to others. So they get paid because someone sold something. You look at every dollar ever contributed to charity. Any ministry that receives a donation is because someone sold something for a profit. And if we could understand in our mind that selling is a plan that God has established to allow the circulation of funds. It's not a necessary evil. It's not something that is wrong. It's something to feel icky and it's not just a slick, sleazy, slimy kind of thing to do. Selling is a good thing. In fact, I find it's interesting. For several years, I felt like selling wasn't Christ-like, and I had a challenge with charging a price because I was like, well, maybe by selling it's less spiritual or it's less of a service. I want to help people, and by selling then automatically I'm not able to serve them. But if it's un-Christ-like, then Jesus wouldn't have represented himself as being a heavenly merchant. And we see in Matthew 13:35, Jesus himself tells a parable. He said, again, the kingdom of heaven is like unto a merchant man, which that's a salesperson, seeking goodly pearls, and who, when he had found one pearl of great price, went and sold all that he had and bought it. So we see that Jesus represented himself as a merchantman, that when he found that pearl of great price, which is you and I, he sold all that he had and he went and purchased it. He gave his life on Calvary so that you and I could be saved. And another lesson that we could see from this is God's plan for us to buy what we desire is to sell what we have. So if it's to pay for the employees you desire, it's by making the sales in your business to hire that. To invest in the mentors you desire, that can come out of the sales. To invest in the car, the vehicle that's reliable, that's not going to be leaving you stranded, or to buy the car you desire, that's making you sell what you have. And what do you have? As health educators, you have a health knowledge. You have experience. You have insights that most people don't have. And you don't even have to have insights that nobody on planet Earth has. You just have to be a few steps ahead of the people that you are serving. And if you can help them to make progress, that's what people desire. And so Jesus represented himself in multiple occasions as a heavenly salesperson. And another way to look at this, I really like the quote that Zig Ziglar shared. He mentioned that if he is going to be speaking on, let's say, he's going to be speaking to an audience for 60 minutes, or he's going to be talking to someone, he knew that it doesn't make sense if you are going to be speaking to someone for 60 minutes to think that you're going to drastically transform their life in that short time that you have with them. One of the best things that you can do is if you're going to be speaking to someone, then it takes a level of, you're dealing with habits, you're dealing with mindsets, there's behavioral changes, sometimes there's a shift of diet. You're teaching long-term transitions that need to take place over a period of time. So that's not something to think that you're going to do within 60 minutes. I used to have the approach, well, if I'm going to talk to the audience, I want to give them everything I know about this topic in 60 minutes or less. That was my intention in the beginning, and I hear that a lot as health educators. But then what happens is the more that you teach, the less people want to buy. Because when you're giving people an overloaded list of all these things to do, then they just walk away feeling like, wow, you've given me so much to do. Let me take care of this before I could even think about joining your program or working with you. They're already overwhelmed. And what we think is over-delivering is actually overwhelming. So I like what Zig Ziglar said. He shared that if I don't sell them, I cannot serve them. Because it is among the most ethical thing that we can do is to give them the right information that will help them make an informed decision to be able to work with you longer term through a coaching program, an online course, an audio program, something that will be able to give them ongoing support to guide them through that process of transformation. Because if the only contact they have with you is in those 60 minutes, then they're going to walk away overloaded and overwhelmed, and they're not likely to put into practice the things that you teach. So when you have an opportunity to speak or share, then it's going to be in their best interest that you learn to sell and learn to sell well. Otherwise, when you're giving your audience everything that you know in 60 minutes without selling them, it's like taking a fire hose to the face, and it could be very overwhelming. In fact, I had clients, Alpha and Shintoya, when I was sharing this analogy, Alpha, he spoke and he's like, that's exactly what I was doing. I was telling them everything that I know, and that was my goal, and then making minimal sales. So what I did is I had them attend our signature speech workshop, and in the next event that they spoke at, 2 weeks after that, he did more sales at that event than he did in his last 12 years as a health educator. He sold out not only in the back of the room, he had back orders on his online store too, because the principles that I taught him and his wife helped them to be able to have an oversubscribed business. And that's when they were so excited, they got back on on our coaching call that we do, and they're like, we just had more sales at this event than we've ever done before. This is so exciting. And how many of you want to have an oversubscribed products and programs when you speak at an event? Type me in the chat if when you open your mouth, when you share at events, you have people lining up, ready to sign up, and they're excited for what you have to offer. This is what happens when you learn the difference between speaking to teach and speaking to sell. And having the right signature speech is able to be a carefully crafted message that is like an infinite sales message. You could share it 3,000 times without losing the power of persuasion. Because here's a tip: you don't have to change the speech, you change the audience so it feels new to them, because it is. But you're able to refine your craft, get clear on your messaging, and be very intentional with how you're educating people closer to a sale, and you're also educating them, giving real value and teaching real concepts that are moving them forward in the direction that they desire to go. So another way to look at this is if you have a solution that can help people. Let's say people are sick, maybe they're overweight, maybe they got an immune disease, or they've got diabetes, whatever health problem they have. If you have the ability to, with your knowledge in your mouth, you can communicate a message that could transform their life, and you can make an offer that they could join your program, buy something else from you, and they will go from sick, sad to glad, and then you're doing a disservice if you do not sell it to them. Because if you don't sell your program to the people you can serve, you're forcing your highest paying clients to go to your competitors who are not going to love them the way you will, who don't have the principles that are as solid as yours, they don't have the process that can help guide them through, and they don't have the experience or the truth that you have. And what happens is, the reality is, even with these premium mentorship programs, if all you have is these low ticket items, maybe supplements or books or some small item or cheap offer, then your best clients who are willing to pay a premium, you're forcing them to go pay your competitors who's not going to support them the way that you're capable of. And really, the offer that you don't make is the offer they can't take. So it's very important to recognize that selling is service. Selling is, to not sell them is doing a disservice, leaving people in their sickness and their pain and their suffering. And as a salesperson, what's powerful is you're introducing them to a new normal. There's a gap between where they are now with their sickness, problem, and challenges and where they can be. And when you're selling them, you're introducing them to a new reality. Feel good about that. That's something that is honorable. That is something that is very service oriented. How many of you are ready to serve people through your health message? Type serve in the chat below if this is starting to make sense and you're starting to connect the dots and realizing the service through your selling your programs and your products. And one of the ways that you're able to do this is a big shift that I find This is some of the lessons I learned from Dave MacArthur. One of my first millionaire mentors is that whenever we're talking about selling, a lot of health educators or a lot of sales trainers they do it very differently. Where most health educators, when they want to improve their sales, they come and they ask questions about, how do I handle objections? People say I'm too busy, or I'll think about it, or I need to go talk to my husband. And then what they want to do is they want to ask a lot of, like, how do I handle these objections? And most trainers are going to teach you how to close. They'll tell you how to basically argue with your clients and what to do to overcome these objections. But instead of handling objections, what I like to do is teach how to pre-handle the objections. So instead of instead of overcoming objections, let's just eliminate them entirely with your signature speech. I like how Proverbs 27:12, the scripture says, "A prudent man seeth evil afar off and hideth himself, but the simple pass on and are punished." So in other words, a wise person who's perceptive, who can see afar off. If you know an objection is going to come, which, by the way, there are only a handful of objections that people have to make. The decision process for people to make an informed decision, they have to know, does it work? Can I do it? Do I have the resources to do it? And if you can answer these 3 questions in your message, and you know people are going to ask, well, why do I want to work with you? Or what have other people said about your message? Or they're going to be asking, well, how much time does this take? Or how do you compare to something else that they've done or tried in the past and failed? And instead, what a lot of health educators do is they'll teach about anything and everything under the sun. They're just talking about stuff that they're passionate about teaching, and with no rhyme or reason per se. And what happens is, by the end of their talk, they kind of do this awkward transition to a program that doesn't necessarily have to do with what they were talking about, and it feels uncomfortable for the speaker and for the audience. And then they have all these objections and questions and concerns. So the health educator becomes very reactive in how they address it. But instead, you can be proactive. If instead of waiting to the end for them to express it, just address them in advance. Make sure that you're telling stories in your signature speech. You're sharing science that's going to address the concerns. It's sharing the contrast of the ways that they've tried in the past and why yours is different. Or share some part of your origin story about why you're doing what you're doing, the mission behind your message, or even like how you learned about this and the things you've tried leading up to this that didn't work and why this is the most effective thing you found. What are the results that either you've been able to help others, or at least people in the marketplace have been able to get as a result of the principles you teach? Whatever, like there is ways that you can communicate where every word you are saying is, and it doesn't even, whether you know it or not, every word, every question, every statement, statistic or science, everything that comes out of your mouth is either selling people towards saying yes to your offer, or it's repelling people away to say no to your offer. There is only 2 types of comments. There are selling statements and there are repelling statements. And if we don't know the difference, a lot of times we will unknowingly be flooding our speeches with repelling statements, and we just like convince them not to buy, and then we wonder, why aren't they signing up at the end? Because there's a science of selling, and if we don't understand the science, then that science is going to work against us. It's like there's laws of human nature, and if we work against human nature, then human nature will work against us. And if we align and work with human nature, then human nature will work for us. So how many of you would like to eliminate buying objections entirely? Type yes in the chat. This is something that was a major shift for me, where the first time I heard that this was even optional, I was like, wait a second, so I could just craft my speech in a way that they don't even come up? And then at first it was like I would speak and then present an offer and people had all these questions. But once I started learning these skills, then I would put together a presentation and then I would speak and people didn't have a bunch of questions. They had a bunch of order forms that are filled out, ready to join or buy or booking calls, because we're eliminating them. We're speaking them in advance. We are addressing them before they come up. And really, whoever could address the concern first, whoever can express the concern first, usually wins. If your audience expresses it before, then it's like this weird, like, okay, you overcome it. But if you express it first and you teach them how to think about that, how to look at it differently, then they're able to say, that makes sense, and they're ready to go forward. So the third key to selling while serving is understanding that selling is your moral obligation to serve people. It's something that we get to do for others. Key number 4, we're looking at the shocking truth about what happens when you make money online. This lesson really, like, you'll know the truth and the truth will make you free, and you'll be free indeed. A lot of monetizing your health knowledge online is not even necessarily just the marketing strategy. Sometimes it's the money myths and the mindset that we have that really holds us back. It's the fears and the internal conflicts in our heart that prevents us from actually doing the actions that are required to make a profitable business. One conversation I had with Dave MacArthur, I'll never forget, is, well, before that, it's something that he would often say is, he would say, money isn't everything, but it's right up there with oxygen. You need it to survive. And I was like, well, that makes sense. But the conversation that was very eye-opening is that he talked about $1. When you look at money in this health education business is really a representation of the impact that you've had in the marketplace. We talked about this briefly. He taught me about the law of compensation, how you are compensated not by the time that you give, not by the knowledge you have or how great your product is. You are compensated by the value you add in the marketplace. All money is a result of the impact that you've had. So he asked me a question. If you knew that the income that you generated in your health education business was a direct reflection of the impacts that you're having in people's lives, how much money would you want to make? If you knew that you're helping parents to live longer, to see their grandkids, you're helping children to not die before their parents, you're helping to extend people's quality of life so that their last years are that of vitality and life and not just existing, but actually like thriving, that you're able to get people out of pain to help them to have greater confidence in their body again. If you knew that the income that you make is a direct reflection of the impact you're having in people's lives, then the question is like, how much money would you want to make? And he asked me that. I thought, wow, well, I guess in that way, as much as I can, because I think that the desire to just have enough to be comfortable is one of the most selfish desires that we could possibly have. Because I don't want just enough for myself and my own to be comfortable. I want more than enough so I can provide for the wants and needs of others. I want more than enough so I can contribute to causes I care about. I've realized Philippians 2:4, it says, let every man look not on his own things, but every man on the things of others. Let this mind be in you, which was also in Christ Jesus. If you look at every other domain in life, we want as much as we possibly can. Like if I were to ask you and you have a daughter, I say, well, how smart do you want your daughter to be? Oh, just not too smart, not too intelligent, just enough smarts to be comfortable or, right? It's like, no, you're like, I want my daughter to be as smart as she possibly can. Well, how much health do you want your daughter to have? Well, not too healthy, I don't want to get prideful and stuff. I don't want her to be too strong or fit, maybe just enough, yeah? No, it's like no good parent's going to say that. You're going to say, I want my daughter to have the best health that she possibly can. In every area of life, we want as much as we can, except for finances. Now it's like, oh, I don't want too much. I don't want to be greedy, right? It doesn't make sense. God has created us with this capacity to increase, as Genesis 1:28 says, be fruitful, multiply, subdue. God is the desire to accumulate wealth is an original affection of our nature implanted there by our Heavenly Father for noble ends. And He's given that to us so that we can contribute to others. And what hit me, what was so eye-opening in this conversation was realizing that the money that you make in this business model is impacting people's lives. And a lot of times employees have different motivations than entrepreneurs. A lot of employees, they want to work and save towards their retirement so they can get to a place where they stop working. And that's their goal for money. But entrepreneurs have a very different reason for why we make money. We get into this business because we love helping people. We have a solution that we want to share with others. Maybe we had a health problem. I've got one client who joined our program. She had this severe facial pain disease. They call it suicide disease, and it's been so much pain. And she told God, she said, God, if you help restore me, I will use these skills for your glory to go help other people who are struggling through this. God recovered her, and now she's over there empowering others who are going through a similar struggle, who feel alone, and they don't have to feel alone anymore, with her strategies to detox the heavy metals. Now, that's more along the lines of a motivation of a lot of health educators, is that we're here because we want to help people, we want to change lives, we want to share a message that can make a difference in people's lives. So our goal to increase our income is not to just live comfortably so we stop working. In fact, if you think of the thought of coming to a point in life where you stop sharing a health message, stop impacting lives, like, does that sound exciting as an entrepreneur to get to a point where you stop changing lives for a living? No, it's like everyone's shaking their head on Zoom. I mean, that sounds like awful to us. We want to increase our income so we can scale the impact that we have in the world, so we can reinvest into teams that now we can be providers for other people's families. We could reinvest into mentorship, into software, automations, or equipment, or marketing that's going to be able to scale the impact of more lives that we can change. So the motivation of entrepreneurs and money is very different than a lot of employees who are just trading time for money, and they're just doing it for the money. And so this was really eye-opening, and an exercise that's very helpful is to really ask yourself, how much money would you like to make a month? And actually put a tangible amount, put a dollar amount of what would you want to do, and allow yourself to dream. It's not selfish to think big in that regard and to see what's possible. But another question that helps to, you want to have a financial vision for your future, but you also want to have a shorter term vision that can help as well. I like to identify what is your financial independence number. The way that I define financial independence is when your passive income is equal to, it meets or exceeds your living expenses. How much does it cost for you a month to live, to pay for the expenses that you have? And when your passive income from your business is able to cover your living expenses, congratulations, you're financially independent. This is something that I've experienced since my early 20s, and it's allowed me the freedom when the finances isn't so heavy hanging over your shoulders. It gives you the freedom to be able to spend your time solving real problems that you don't have to consume yourself with money. You're able to serve and show up in different ways. So but think about, how much is your monthly living expense today? Like your housing, your food, your electricity, your vehicle payments, whatever it is, add it up. And you would actually most people would be pleasantly surprised to realize that you don't need $1 million a month, $100,000 a month. You don't need that much to actually cover your living expenses, to be financially independent, to be able to fully focus on your mission and making a difference in people's lives. And that's, when you could realize that, it can make a big difference. Like, let's say you need $5,000 a month to cover your operating expenses. Then the question is not, the question becomes, how many sales do I need to make at least $3,000 in order to cover my monthly living expenses? And that's 2 sales would be $6,000. So that's, congratulations, it's more than enough for your monthly expenses. Now you can start thinking about scaling your impact in other areas. So you're not just struggling to survive, you're learning how to thrive. And you're not just, one of the best advice I learned from another millionaire mentor of mine, he made $90 million in his health education business, and the guy's in his 90s right now, and he's still kicking and sharing. And what he taught me is, like, Enoch, learn to count your expenses in sales, not in dollars. So instead of thinking of how many dollars it costs, think how many sales would it take to be able to pay for this? And when you start shifting and stop seeing everything as an expense, you start looking at making investments in your future, an investment in, by learning this skill, this will help me to increase the sales that I make, serve more people, and have more resources to reinvest in other things. It really changes the way that we make decisions, not out of the scarcity, but out of the creativity that we have. And when you write down your financial independence number, it can make a very big difference. And let's say you have a $5,000 program, then that's just one sale a month. Do you think that you can find one person in a month, like out of 8 billion people in this world, who would be willing or able to pay you a premium for your health advice? Out of 8 billion people, is it in the realm of possibility to find one person? Type 1 in the chat below if you believe you can find that person with the right support. And so this is how successful health educators start to think differently about their products and programs, because there is a proven system for being able to attract those high-paying clients. So question number 4, I mean, not question number 4, but key number 4, key to selling while serving, is knowing that every dollar you make represents a life transformed. And the more that we could really internalize that, pray to God, go take it to God in His Word, and really settle that in your heart, then you could show up and shine in your authentic self and feel good about the impact you're having in a sustainable way. So key number 5, we're going to look at the 4 levels of selling your health products or programs. And I'll go through this fairly quickly, but the lowest level of selling, the first step, if you will, is this is the most profitable sale, the single most important sale you will ever make in your career, your business, your future. The most important person to sell to is yourself. This is self-selling. This is when you're acquiring the skills, because here's the reality. If in order to influence others, I must be influenced. In order for me to touch others, I must be touched. In order for me to move others, I must be moved. If I am not sold on the impact that I'm bringing to the world, if I'm not sold on the skills, if I'm not skilling up and learning the high income skills, if I'm not learning how to help people with their sickness or challenges, then I'm going to struggle, because I don't have the conviction. I believe conviction is the number one most important emotion, at least as a communicator, to share with people, because people can tell if you don't really believe in what you teach or share. So what I had to go through is really, like, I started in favorable circumstances where most of the people around me, they were like backwoods loggers. We would build things, they were mechanics and carpenters, and we do a lot of this stuff. And I mean, a lot of my mentors, they would laugh at people who use their mouths to make money, or managers. They're like, they're not really working unless you're working with their hands. So the idea of either selling a program or becoming a professional speaker or being a health educator and changing people's lives in that regard, it was so laughable. And that environment did not support that kind of vision. And what I learned is that we really are a product of our environment in so many ways. So I started to invest in courses and mentors. I started to acquire high income skills, started learning about health, disease that's cause, prevention, cure, started learning about marketing, and I had to sell myself on the vision. And I upgraded my environment. I learned to put myself in environments that normalize the achievements that I desire to make in life. And when we could surround ourselves, like you guys are doing in this challenge too, you get to hear people who are on a similar journey, a path, and a direction, hearing similar experiences. We fill ourselves with the community of people who are learning these concepts and going together. It changes us, because we're products of our environments in a large way. And I learned to embrace distant mentors through courses and through coaching programs and seminars, and start feeding my mind to help me to expand, because a lot of the people I was around, they would laugh at this stuff. So the first level of selling is self-selling. It's making sure that you sell yourself. The second level of selling is one-on-one selling. This is where you create an offer. It's so vitally important that we create some sort of offer that we can provide in exchange for payments, that we can solve these problems. A lot of health educators are teach, but they don't actually have an offer. They have products, but they don't have an offer, and they wonder why their message isn't sustainable. And one-on-one selling, you're going to gain a lot of experiences. I've knocked on over 1,000 doors. And I've had over 1,000 sales conversations, belly to belly, face to face, knee to knee. And here's a photo of me with, I was doing some cooking classes, and I had my health DVDs in here, and I was giving them flyers to invite to people. And having these conversations, either over the phone, over Zoom, you start recognizing there's patterns, there's language that people say, there's concerns that they have, and there's only a handful of questions that really come up, but you learn to recognize those patterns. And it was at a point where I was on, there's one season of life where I was on calls so often, it was like 8 hours a day, either coaching people or working with them, and my team saw me sleeping one day, and the position I had my hands, they kind of jokingly laughed, and they're like, look, Enoch's on the phone so much, he's even talking to people in his sleep. And they're just kind of playing around with that. But what that experience taught me is patterns. There are patterns that people have, and once you learn how to sell yourself and overcome your objections, then you could start addressing one person's concerns at a time, and then you start noticing and recognizing that there's a lot of the same common objections that come up, which lends over to the third level of selling, which is one-to-many selling. This is where things get really exciting and really powerful, because now this is when you have an offer plus an audience. Instead of doing one-on-one, you're now leveraging a higher level of leverage, where now you're able to communicate to groups. So here's a lesson I learned from Russell Brunson, and if you don't know him, he grew his company ClickFunnels from $0 to $300 million a year on the back of one signature speech. And using this signature speech, he's been able to generate over 100,000 paying clients. I've had the privilege to share the stage with him at marketing conferences. And one thing that I learned from him is there was this talk that he did where he showed how he made $3.2 million in 90 minutes. 90 minutes speaking, he made $3.2 million. And he broke down exactly how he did it, slide by slide, in vivid detail. He did this workshop. It was a workshop on this stage selling principles. And as I went through that, that's what I was starting to learn, how to start creating my first automated trainings. And what he did is basically in the room, he spoke at this event, and there was 9,000 people in the room. And he had 90 minutes to talk. But I want you to think about, if he were to have, how long that would have taken him to have one-on-one conversations with 9,000 people is 810 minutes, 810,000 minutes. Or in other words, that's almost 6.5 years of working a full-time, 40-hour-a-week schedule, having one-on-one sales conversations with people. So but he was able to compress that in 90 minutes. And that's one of the ways that he was able to make $3.2 million in a year. So I want you to see that the third level of selling is not, the second highest level of selling is one-to-many selling. Health educators who are making 1,000 times more than you, they're not working 1,000 times harder than you. They're not 1,000 times smarter. They're not putting 1,000 times more hard work or effort. They're not working harder. They're working higher, in a higher level of selling, a higher level of leverage. Because working hard in your health education business is not going to guarantee that it'll make you more money. Working hard is going to guarantee that it'll make you more tired. So the key to getting ahead, at least financially, and with the impact that you want to scale your message, is not working harder, it's working higher in higher forms of leverage and higher levels of selling. So the one-to-many is really when things started to change, and where I started making $10,000 a month in my early 20s, because I started to understand about this one-to-many principles of health education. But the highest level of selling, are you guys ready for this? The fourth and final level of selling is what I would call an auto webinar. And auto webinars are very powerful because this is where you have an offer plus an audience, and then you add automation to it. Then you have the automation where people can come in at any time, and it's not dependent of your time, but you're able to send traffic and attention to it, and people are able to continue these conversations. And if you look, Russell Brunson was doing a training, and he was saying like, look, 9,000 people at an event is powerful. That's cool, right? But what's even more powerful is last month when he did this, he had 42,983 people register for his online webinar just last month. And that is the same signature speech that he shared with 9,000 that he shared with these 42,000. And you're able to do some incredible things that way. And when you have these automated systems or sales funnels, or you have these automated income machines like an online course or a mini course, or if you have things that people can opt in, you're creating Lighthouse content, People are able to opt in and they're going through a process and you're serving them, solving problems, sharing insights, strategies that transform their life, and they appreciate you more for it. This is, it's building better buyers. And one thing I learned early in my entrepreneurial experience is a quote from Warren Buffett. He said, if you don't find a way to make money while you sleep, you'll be working until you die. So there is this, it's wise to figure out how can you disconnect your income generation from your time so that you have these automations in place that you could automate your lead generation, automate your lead conversion for the leads to become paying clients, and automate the retention for your business. And the ways that you grow your business, learn how to use technology or the internet to automate some of these parts. How many of you would like to learn how to make money in your sleep? And I'll share with you that it's actually more simple than what we have been taught or what it seems like. It's just about knowing the right system. And I was in a mastermind where there was each person, we paid $55,000 to be a part of it. And Kiana Daniel was there. I originally heard of her because she was speaking at this event that Russell Brunson was doing. There's like 6,000 entrepreneurs. And she's been featured on news. She's a New York Times bestselling author several times. I had the opportunity to have dinner with her and several other people in our mastermind. And on several occasions, she shared with me some just powerful knowledge nuggets that you just get to do when you're rubbing shoulders with people who are doing amazing things in the marketplace. But one thing she did is she literally pulled up her phone and she showed me her Stripe notifications of the payments. And she shared with me that she had an automated webinar that is selling a $2,000 course, online course that people go through and they buy and they use. It's all self-service. And in this automated webinar, it's averaging about $900,000 a month. And it has been for over a year. So she was showing me this from one signature speech using the same principles that I teach my students, the same principles that she learned from Russell Brunson, I learned from Russell Brunson, and these principles to be able to have an automated webinar. And it's like, wow, it's amazing to see what is possible. And if I didn't see it with my own eyes, it could be a stretch. But the things that I've seen consistently over and over after being in this speaking industry and recognizing how how health educators are monetizing online and what they're able to do, it's really just a few marketing strategies at work. And these principles apply regardless of what message you share, who you are. It's when you apply the principles, you know the principles of marketing, then they work and you could serve people and solve problems. So that's key number 5, and is these 4 levels of selling. And key number 6, we're looking at, this is one of the best things that you can do for your clients that will increase their success, their commitment, and their attention towards your advice. How many of you have ever poured your heart and your soul into advice? Someone comes to you, they're asking for help. You tell them exactly what they need to do, when to do it, and you share with them these principles, but either they don't actually apply it, they go back and you're saying, hey, were you able to do it? And they're like, no, I didn't. And then you just poured out your heart and everything to help them, but their commitment was really low. And it's kind of discouraging, right? When you give them so much and they don't actually do it. So what this does, what I'm about to share with you, is going to make them pay more attention. They will show up to your trainings. They will care about what you're sharing and actually apply it. You get much better quality people that you serve. And it's from a principle that Jesus understood very well. And Jesus recognized that people's heart, they follow their pocketbook. So he said in Matthew 6:21, for where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. In other words, we see that people who pay a little attention, but people who pay a lot of attention, and people who pay nothing tend to pay no attention. And I find that one of the best things that I do for my clients is I charge them a lot of money to work with me. And you might be saying, well, you mean that's one of the best things you do for yourself, Enoch? No, one of the best things I do for my clients is I charge them a lot of money to work with me. And the reason why is because when you charge a premium, it does a few things. Number 1, it takes your clients off the marketplace. If you're selling these cheap offers, then then your clients who are struggling, they're not only buying your cheap thing, they're buying your competitor's cheap thing and that cheap thing and all these things, and they start adding them to their digital shelf or their physical shelf, and what was meant to be self-help really becomes shelf-help, and it's just collecting dust. And you're just one of many of these things, and they don't really have enough skin in the game. But I find that people who invest become invested. They start paying more attention. They show up. They're like, I'm going to get my money's worth. I've had clients who have had deaths in their family, or severe crises or challenges or struggles that happen, but they're like, look, I paid for this. I'm going to show up. I'm going to get my money's worth. And they apply the principles. They show up, they learn, and they grow together. Whereas people who get in all these free talks or free trainings, a lot of times the slightest distraction would veer them off of their goals and their dreams, because they didn't really invest enough to that. But when you are charging a premium price for your health advice, people value your advice more. They value your time. They prioritize it. They make it a priority, because Jesus understood where their treasure is, there will their heart be also. So if you want to have their heart, their attention, their thoughts, their actions, their commitment, then charge higher prices, and you'll find that you'll get better quality clients. And another thing too is that if you really believe that your pricing is part of your brand strategy, if you believe you're the best, then charge like it. Sometimes if you're promising you can do like this drastic health transformation for people, and they ask how much is it, and you quote them something so low, like hundreds of dollars for some big change, people don't really believe that that's even possible, because the reality is, if you are the best, no one expects you to be the cheapest. And if you're the cheapest, no one expects you to be the best. A lot of times, the reason why health educators struggle to monetize or to make sales into their programs is because their prices are too low. It's really counterintuitive. And one of the things I work with my clients is, the first thing, I help them raise their price. Like Rajane, she was selling a $200 course, very transactional business, and people would buy, and she had nothing else to sell them. And when it worked well. When it didn't, it didn't. And I was sharing with her, like, your prices are low, let's raise them. And she created a $3,000 offer, which she's never done in her whole career of helping mothers with physiology and fitness. And I was like, people will gladly pay this and more to the right person. And she was concerned, but we raised her price, and she was able to sell not just one, but two and three. She was able to start selling her program at $3,000 that she's never once in her entire career been paid $3,000 for a transaction for anything she's done. And when you have this belief, like, she got her first sale, she was in tears. She was just praising God and thanking God that this is even possible, because a lot of times we're never going to try. Like, the offer, for many of you, if you've never been paid $3,000 or $5,000 or $10,000, whatever amount, the biggest reason why you haven't been sold or been paid $3,000 for your advice is because you don't have a $3,000 offer. And the offer that you don't make is the offer they can't take. And if we don't make it, we force them to go elsewhere. If you look at a Ferrari, for example, a Ferrari is like a $247,000 car. Now, what if there's a complete stranger who walked up to you and pointed at a Ferrari on the street and said, hey, you see that Ferrari? I'll sell it to you for $2,000. Like, what would be the first thing that come to your mind? Well, if a stranger offered you a Ferrari for $2,000 and you knew it's $250,000 car, you'd be like, is it stolen? It doesn't run? What's wrong with it? Am I going to jail as an accomplice in some illegal crime? Like, there's an issue, right? And you have to understand that coaching is a premium vehicle. Out of all the ways that you can monetize your health knowledge, coaching is one of the most premium things that you can do. So these health coaches are charging like $100 an hour or $200 for their 6-month program. Like, people have a hard time believing that this is something that's actually worth value when your prices are so low. And so out of the options that you have, like video, audio, an ebook, or a physical book, or seminars, there's different ways that you can monetize your health knowledge, but a coaching program done with you in a group is one of the most premium kind of vehicle that you could choose. So if you're selling a premium vehicle for dirt cheap prices, it's going to naturally create concerns, and objections and fears that people have. In fact, I was sharing with Hollis and Shintoya, they were afraid that by raising their prices, they would lose their current clients, but they raised their prices and they sold more products both online and offline. They came on our coaching call and they're like, we did it. We were scared, but we raised our prices. And not only did we find that our existing clients continued to buy, we got in more clients than we did before, and we have a more profitable business. Something as simple as this one lever, this higher form of leverage, just higher prices, and people will value it more. In fact, there was a study that was done. There was at least a news article in Florida that was talking about the salary needed to live comfortably in America. And I don't know where they got this information, but I thought it was an interesting concept that they were saying for a single adult, with the rise of inflation and the cost of living, which this was actually a few years ago, it's probably higher now. For a single adult, they quoted about $94,000 for someone to live comfortably. Now, what are those comfortable standards? I'm not sure. But for the national average, it's about $93,000 a year. And then for 2 working adults and 2 children, they estimate about $209,000 a year. So you see, just for the living expenses that are going rising higher, because our expenses are rising higher, we need to find ways to increase our income too. Because if the cost of wages are not increasing at the cost of living, so something needs to change, right? So how many of you would like to know 6-figure math of what it would take to be able to make $100,000 in your health education business? Is it okay if I share with you some of the marketing math to simplify what this looks like? So if you have, let's say, a $3,000 offer, then all you would need to do is make 3 sales in a month, and you would make $9,000 a month. So at $9,000 a month, times 12 months, congratulations, you're at a $108,000 a year business. You now have a 6-figure business. So, and again, it's like, out of this 8 billion people in this world, do you think it's in the realm of possibility that you could find just 3 people in an entire month who'd be interested in paying you to help transform their life? You don't have to have 30 sales or 50 sales. This is the power of having a premium mentorship program, where if you're selling cheap, low ticket things, you have to sell far more. You have to find way more people to buy. Have high volume, low ticket is going to be harder to sell. You need more marketing skills. You're focused a lot more on marketing and getting new clients, and you're not able to actually focus as much on making sure they have amazing results and you're able to work with them. And that's a 6-figure math. With 3 sales a month, you have a 6-figure math. And then if you want to know the $1 million math, depending on what your goals or possibilities are, all you got to do is add a 0. So you take the same principles that have worked to get your first client, and you use that, you do more of what worked, less of what didn't, and then you get your second and third, and then you do 3 a month, and then you start doing $10,000 a month, and you start exceeding, and you do more of the principles that are working until you're doing 30 sales a month. And as things grow, you're able to learn what would it take to make more sales in a scalable way that can help sustain the work and the mission. So now you have $90,000 a month, and this is $1 million a year. And not just with one offer, but as you start to have books, as you start to have courses, it's actually less sales at different levels. But that's just kind of the marketing math to help you to simplify that it's not as many sales as you would think to be able to create a sustainable work. In fact, we did an interview with Hollis and Shintoya, his wife, and we talked about their journey about raising their price and some of the struggles they went through, the challenges they faced, what they applied and how it actually worked. And we've got an interview there. We'll email it to you at the end of this day, and it talks about, or when the training is over, and it talks about how my students, they raise their prices and they sold more than ever. If you want to hear their testimony, it's really insightful and packed with some powerful lessons. So, and I want you to understand too, they were able to have this experience because I sold them a program that guided them through the process. And so, in other words, selling is not something you do to someone. Selling is something you do for someone. The testimonies and experiences and the changed lives that you get to here is because you've sold your program to someone and shared it in a way they were able to apply, and you get these experiences that totally transform people's lives. So the sixth key to selling while serving is recognizing that people who pay attention. And it's because we want to help people that we want to charge for it, because people who pay attention. The last key that I'm going to cover, the last key we're talking about, is why not all business models are created equally. The model you choose will largely influence the quality of life, the quality of your business, how you operate, and really how you're going to scale, or the ability to scale it. So let me ask you a question. If you made $1 million, are you wealthy? Yes or no? Put yes or no in the chat. How would you answer that? If you made $1 million, are you wealthy? What are your thoughts there? Some say yes, some say no, and depending on it depends. Because let's say, okay, depends on your expenses. Let's say you made $1 million working at McDonald's. Here I have a photo of the oldest employee at McDonald's in Europe. He's celebrating his 90th birthday, and he's been with them for a very long time. So if you make $25,000 a year for 40 years working at McDonald's, then congratulations, you've made $1 million. But are you wealthy with the $1 million? Well, not necessarily. And what we find is that wealth is measured more in speed than it is in dollars. And one thing that I learned from Myron Golden, who's another millionaire mentor of mine, in his mastermind, he shared that it's easier to make a lot of money in a short period of time than it is to make a little money in a long period of time. And I'll prove it to you in about 30 seconds, because one of the ways we know is because of the vehicle you choose. Now, I want you to imagine you're walking, and you're gonna walk for 12 minutes, same period of time, right? You might cover, say, a half a mile, right? That's not a lot. But now imagine if you're biking, different vehicle. If you aim to bike for 12 minutes, same amount of time, you'll probably cover about 3 miles, not bad. And now I want you to imagine you're driving, and if you aim to drive for 12 minutes, you'll probably cover about 12 miles. Now we're starting to get somewhere. But now let's change vehicles. Now you're flying. Imagine if you aim to fly for 12 minutes. How many miles will you go? Only God knows how far, but the point is you're going to go very far. So it's easier to make a lot of money in a short period of time than a little money in a long period of time, because you pick a different vehicle. The opportunity of the vehicle that you pick to build your business is going to propel you the furthest. This is a shift. And when I understood this is what helped me to have my first $40,000 day. And it is a whole lot harder, and it is a whole lot more exhausting to work an entire year to make the same amount of money than when you learn how to sell from stage, the right program that you're able to sell in a shorter period of time and get bigger results for people that you work with. There's a health coach in a marketing community that I was in, and he shared this post that he did an interview, and he showed that in this video he recorded, like his Lighthouse content, applying these principles we've been talking about today. In this video, he had bad lighting, he had a bad camera, he only got about 160 views on his video, but from those views, he booked 20 calls. And he signed up 9 people to a $6,000 coaching program, and he's teaching people how to ride bikes. He's like a biking coach, and he made $48,000 in 1 week. And this is showing that the possibilities are very different when you choose a different vehicle. When you're a service-based business, when you are having people come to you and you're limited on who you could do because of all the hard, exhausting work that you're doing, it's a big limitation as far as the resources and the impact of people you could serve. And so the 7th key to selling while serving is to choose your business vehicle wisely, because it really matters. So in this, your assignment today, what I want you to do is I want you to go live in the Facebook group, and I want you to share, based on your experience so far, the lessons that you've learned, the insights you've gained, answer the question, would you recommend this challenge to other health educators who have been through this process? And we want you to practice going live, because as you go live, this is something you're going to want to do, is create video content in some form or fashion. And if you missed yesterday, you could still do it today. You could still do it at any time during the challenge. But I want you to go live and share if you would recommend it to someone, and if so, why? And who would you recommend for this challenge if it's been worth your time so far? And you may want to consider to start raising your prices. Consider what is one valuable problem that you could really solve for people that would be willing to pay you a premium. Identify what is your financial independence number. How much would you need to make a month to cover your expenses? And what is there's two numbers, your financial independence number and then your desired lifestyle number. What would it cost for you to live the lifestyle that you desire? To have the help you desire, the team you desire, the equipment, the property, the location. Just when something powerful happens, when you put a dollar amount on the vision you have that God has put in your heart, and you realize the expense that is tied into that, and you stop counting it in dollars, but you start counting in sales. Ask yourself, how many sales do you need to make to reach your financial independence and to reach the desired vision that you have? Then it really starts bringing more meaning to the growth of your business. It helps you to prioritize when there's all these distractions and things calling you away. You begin to realize this is a path to be able to pursue the purpose that God has put in my heart. So those are your two assignments. You could write it down. And you could post that. You could write down the numbers on the Facebook group, but the video, you want to share a video of a review of what your experience has been so far. And some book recommendations that I would recommend if you want to get better at whether it's storytelling, public speaking, or selling from stage. The first book is called Copywriting Secrets. And copy is simply, it's persuasive words. Writing is just words. It's the words that you use for the purpose of selling. That might be an email. It might be the words you put on a website or a sales page. It might be the words that you put on social media posts, or if you're writing letters in the mail. Whatever is written word that influences people's decisions, Copywriting Secrets will teach you how to better communicate your health principles, how to share. In the VIP, we talked about sell them what they want, give them what they need. It will help you to get very clear on what do the people want. And rather than just brainstorming from scratch, you'll get strategies to know how to connect what you have to offer with what people already desire to buy. Second book is from Russell Brunson called Expert Secrets. And he teaches you how to build a movement behind your message, how to monetize your knowledge and turn your calling into your career. It's a really powerful book that is filled with insights of how to actually what to say, what kind of content to create, and how to express your message there. And then the third book is called The Storyteller's Secrets by Carmen Gallo. Really, any book that I've read from this author has been really awesome about how to speak in public, how to share stories in a way that engages people. And the last book from the same author, Carmen Gallo, is Talk Like TED. He shares 9 public speaking secrets from the world's top speakers. He found some of the most viral TED Talks, and he analyzed them and found there's 9 secrets that many of these TED Talks have, the best speakers out there, that we can start incorporating into our content, and it will make us better speakers. I've read through those books multiple times, actually all these books multiple times, and they've been very insightful, and I believe that you'll find it too. So today we have been covering the key to selling while serving. Tomorrow is going to be a very different schedule. Tomorrow we got a Bible study. Sometimes people, if you're able to join live, it's a Bible study that we're going to do. There's no VIP coaching tomorrow. And many people have said that this Bible study has been their favorite talk that they out of the entire 5 days. So you don't want to miss it if you can. If you won't be able to show up live, we will have the replays. All the replays for the challenge are available until this Wednesday. This is a live event. It's not an online course. You just get lifetime access. We want to encourage people to participate and go through it. So up until Wednesday, you have to be able to listen to tomorrow's talk if you can't show up live on Zoom. We're going to be doing it earlier. It will be 9 a.m. on Pacific time, 9 a.m. Pacific time. And then we're going to go for about an hour. And that Bible study is really eye-opening for people. So if you want to see it tomorrow or catch a replay in the evening, in either of that can work. But you don't want to miss it either way. And then we'll resume to the regular schedule, VIP sessions in the morning on Sunday, and the afternoon we will go through the live training. But we've gotten to the end of the day, and this is day 2 of 5 of the High Income Health Expert Challenge. It's been a blessing to serve you. Remember, friends, that God doesn't call a qualified, He qualifies a called. Have a great day, and God bless.